Earlier today, I had the privilege of interviewing Jason Arntz. Jason Arntz is a retired bodybuilder, and during the late 90s, early 2000s, Jason Arntz was a champion bodybuilder, and he was pretty much a household name in the bodybuilding world. But today, he is the owner and operator of his own supplement company. It's called I-prevailsupplements. Jason Arntz uses the best ingredients possible to develop his supplements. He knows what needs to go into his supplements so that people could gain muscle, get leaner, get stronger, and reach their goals. His products are varied. He has really good stuff. So he has a really good pre-workout called Rogue Pro. That's something that I use. He has branched chain amino acids called Amino Impact. He has a recovery drink that I use called Rehab. He has a sleep aid that's really good. It's a sleep aid and recovery, so you could actually build muscle while you're sleeping, and it helps you sleep, and that's called Dream Chaser. And for the older guys who need a little boost in testosterone, he has a natural testosterone booster called Amped Up. And for the ladies, he also has a weight loss product called T2 Rise. Really good. He has T2 Rise, which is stimulant and non-stimulant. He also has bodybuilding gear, hats, t-shirts. So check out his website, www.i-prevailsups.com, and use the discount code SNS10 and tell them Uncle John sent you. All right, YouTubers, Serious and Silliness has another guest, a 90s bodybuilding legend. And this guy in the tri-state area in the late 90s was pretty much a household name of bodybuilding. So I'd like to introduce Jason Arntz.
How you doing, John? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Anytime, anytime. So you probably don't remember this, and I'm sure you get this all the time, but my first contest was the 1999 Mr. Staten Island.
Oh, wow.
And you were the guest poser.
Okay, so I do remember guest posing in Staten Island.
Yeah,
I do.
you were the guest poser.
Yeah,
And
there was a few shows in Staten Island that I was at. I do remember that one vaguely.
yeah, I was a kid. I was 23 years old, 22, something like that. And that was my first contest. Not, I did like 4. And one of them was your Muscle Beach in 2012.
Yeah, I knew there was a link there also. That's right.
Yeah, and I actually won the Masters overall at that show.
That's right. A good
So
show.
yeah, it's a great show. Most of the like the Jersey shows, and the New York shows are pretty good. But I remember after the show was done, I was like in the front in the stage looking at the competitors. My class was over. So I don't know if you remember him. He passed away. Everybody called him Joe Baggs. He was enormous. He was an amateur bodybuilder. He was huge.
Joe was a good friend of mine. Actually, I trained him when he won the Junior USA.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I only knew him because we worked out at the same gym. We went to Pump and Iron in Staten Island.
That's right. Yeah.
And I remember he said he's sitting next to me. We were watching the competitors, and I didn't know. I just knew him from the gym. And he goes, "Come on, let's go backstage. We'll see what Jason Arntz looks like warming up." Because you had just turned pro, so you were like the freak,
right?
But so what I wanted to ask you was, back then in the late 90s, what year did you turn pro?
I turned pro 98. I was
okay.
I was 26.
All right. So back then in the late 90s in New York and New Jersey, there were 3 names that were big, and only one of them turned pro. All right. So the 3 names was Dave Palumbo, right, Vinny Galante. Actually, Vinny Galante turned pro years later.
Yeah.
And you.
Right.
And that, what I'm trying to say is that's how difficult it was to turn pro back then.
Yes.
It was like you had to win the first of all, you only had bodybuilding. Right. And you had to win the USA overall, and you had to win your class in the nationals.
So I won the USA twice, 2 years in a row, 2 different weight classes, and still didn't get my pro class.
Yeah.
In 97, I won the light heavyweights.
Right.
And in 98, I won the heavyweights. That was the first year they introduced the super heavyweight class.
Okay.
And I lost to Dennis James in the overall, which, rightfully so.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But then you won your class in the nationals, right? Or you won the overall too?
I won my class. I was fortunate enough to win my class at the nationals, the heavyweight class, and the overall, which at that time it was everybody wanted to be a national overall winner. There's only a few of them,
Yeah.
but to win the overall there, for me to take my lumps, at the USA's and just, coming out missing by 2 points that year earlier and a point the year before,
Mhm.
it was well worth it to say I actually got the overall national title.
Right. Yeah. People don't understand how, the young generation today don't understand how really difficult it was. And it was even more difficult for you, because I'll get to that. But back then you only had the nationals and the USA. Was there any other national level show that you could turn pro in the States?
There was the North American. And actually the year I got it was the year Dexter Jackson turned pro also. So, but to date, Glenda Murray,
Okay.
she won the North American.
Okay.
And
Overall or the class you could turn pro?
you had to win the overall. And Johnny Morant, who was from my gym in New Jersey, Diamond Gym, the gym I was bred from,
Right.
he was the household name at that time. He had turned pro at the North American, but a lot of people kind of stayed away from the North Americans because even though you got a pro card, people even said that was like backdooring it in, Yeah. So it was even harder because not many people even did the North American.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some worthy overall champions at the North American, but it was either the Nationals or the USA, and
Mhm.
you get the overall at the USA, or you get your weight class in the overall at the Nationals. But yeah, it was tough.
And that was it. There was no other way to turn pro. There was no men's physique. There was no classic physique. There was no masters. That was it. And you had to win. There was no coming in second or third and you get your pro card.
Right.
So when you got your pro card, that was like majority of the time you got your pro card and you were like basically straight to the top because you were that talented. But when you turned pro, there was no 202 class, or then became the 212 class. It was the open.
Right.
So tell us what the difference was from going to the national level and then having to stand on stage next to guys like Paul Dillette and Marcus Rule.
Right. So, it was as tough as you make it sound,
Yeah.
but for me, I looked up to the Sean Rays,
I did the same thing.
And then the Lee Labrandas before him, the guys who had classic looks,
Right.
but had enough muscle, enough mass, to compete pound for pound with some of the bigger guys. And, when I won the overall at the Nationals, I beat Orville Burke, who was like almost 260 pounds in the overall.
Right.
So he outweighed me by 58, 59. I was probably only 202.
Right.
I think I weighed in at 203 at the Nationals. By the time you hit the night show and you dehydrate even more, I might even have been below 200, So to win that with that level of competition, you have confidence going into a pro show. So I trained, my first pro show was the Canadian Pro and the Night of the Champions.
Okay.
And, I had a good show. My first pro show, I took fourth, in an open.
That's pretty good.
It was a huge lineup. There was Jean-Pierre Fuchs. It was, Milos was in it.
Oh my God. Yeah. These are guys. Yeah.
Eddie Robinson,
Right.
Dennis Newman. There was Dennis Newman at turned pro a couple of years. He was he was going to be the future of the sport until he had gotten sick.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some big names, to be reckoned with at that show, and I made a good standing for myself, and kind of set me to, hey, what are you going to do with this for the duration of your career?
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you do in the? I almost said the New York Pro, the Night of Champions.
Right. The Night of Champions, I was fourth in Toronto, and I believe I was 10th at the Night of the Champions. But
Okay.
it was a stacked.
Well, the Night of Champions, and it still is the New York Pro. For people who don't know, the Night of Champions was the New York Pro before it was the New York Pro. The Night of Champions and the New York Pro is always pretty much the third best pro show in the country.
Yeah.
There's always the Olympia, the Arnold Classic, and then it was the Night of Champions, or now the New York Pro. And those lineups were always stacked. I mean, who won the New York Pro back then? I mean, I think Marcus Rule won one year.
Well, I think my first year, Color might even have won it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, actually, I think you're right. I think Ronnie Coleman even won it, right?
No, Ronnie won.
No.
I had taken 7th in the Arnold, and Ronnie won the first year I did the Arnold. I think it was 2001. That was a Mr. Olympia lineup, and I took 7th in it. You know,
Yeah.
it was Ronnie, it was Flex, it was Chris Comer, it was Kevin LeBron, and I was able to get seventh with those names up there.
And then I remember, when did they come out with the 202 weight class?
So they announced in 2007 they had a 210-pound class. I think they wanted to give it a try, and I believe it was Silvio Samuels that won that.
Okay.
And then I received a phone call later on that year, and they said, you know, we're thinking about putting together a 202-pound class, and it's set up for guys like you who are kind of getting lost in the shuffle, you know, with the bigger guys. Do you think you could still make weight, sucking down to 202? I'm like, if you make a class for guys like me, I'll make whatever weight you need me to make.
Right.
So it kind of opened a new door for me. It opened a window of opportunity where, you know, I was a top 10 guy, you know, in the open pro shows. But, you know, you go from winning the nationals or even being a top level amateur competitor for 4 years where you're training to win, you know, then now you're in the pro. It was different my first year as a pro because I'm like, oh, I'm training to win. I want to see how I'm going to do.
Right.
But then it turns into, you know, all right, hopefully I'll make the first call out, or I could possibly qualify for an Olympia show one day.
Right.
There's something that gets lost in that, you know.
Yeah, it takes wind out of your sails. Absolutely.
And just your training, your mentality to train becomes different when you have that window open where now I could make it to an Olympia with my level of guys, you know, where I have a fair shake, you know, and it's not that it's any, you know, cheaper, not that it's cheaper.
No, it's not. And I the one thing that I do agree with is having well, now the 212, but back then it was 202, because originally there was an under 200 and an over 200. Right. And there are great bodybuilders. I mean, look at Sean Clarita. He's 5'2", right? And I mean, he would be in the same position you would be in if there was no 212-pound weight class.
Well, if you look at any sport, look at MMA or boxing, it's like putting a middleweight or a light heavyweight against a super heavyweight. It's like,
yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
It could be a recognized sport, which I really thought was a good idea for the IFBB. If you want to create a business out of this, because look, you know, you have these national level shows with 7 different weight classes, and 5 of them are 200 pounds and below, more or less.
That's right. Yeah.
You're alienating, you know, almost 80% of your population by not introducing these classes. I thought they should have even went a step further and done, you know, maybe I think it still should be a 202 and like a 175, 180 pound division.
Yeah, there was some talk about doing a 185 a couple of years back.
I mean, that kind of makes sense, but now it makes it more of a recognized sport where it's something for everybody.
Yeah.
But instead they kind of went in the direction with physique and opened it up that way. But if you wanted, you know, and I think at the time, you know, the sport was making a transition and bodybuilding numbers, you know, after the you know, like the Ronnie Coleman ages, they kind of took a step down. Numbers weren't what they used to be. So I figured they probably opened it up to more mainstream guys. That's why it appealed to the men's physique guys.
Yeah, the men's physique, classic physique, and even the women. You know, they have the bikini and the figure and the fitness, and now they have, what's the new one? What is it? Wellness, right? They should just call it big ass competition. That's what they should call it. I don't know. But you know, I like the idea of having a variety of divisions because, like you said, you look at the classic physique guys. They're quality. I mean, the top 5 guys in the classic physique in the Olympia, if they had 20, 30 more pounds on, they'd be top 5 guys in the open. You know, they look good. And a lot of guys are transitioning over to the 212 class and making waves and whatnot. The only thing, and this is another thing that I wanted to ask you, the thing that kind of like drives me crazy about today's bodybuilding is, I mean, I understand it's not going anywhere and the social media aspect isn't going anywhere, but the whole idea that you're putting everything out for everybody to see. You and I are from the generation, because I'm 45 years old. I think you're a little bit older than me. Well, I'm sorry?
49.
Yeah. So we're from the wear a sweatshirt and train in the basement and don't take your shirt off until you get on stage kind of thing. You know, the Dorian Yates deal, you know. And I remember I was training in Powerhouse Gym in Staten Island. There was a pro bodybuilder there. I'm not going to name names. And I was working out with my nephew, and I was good friends with the guy who was running the place. and it was a pro bodybuilder, and it was like maybe 6 weeks before the Olympia, and he's got somebody following him around with the camera, for Instagram, and he's taking off his shirt, and of course the guy owning the gym let him do it. I mean, he was a pro bodybuilder, but I'm saying to myself, man, look how different it is. Like he's this guy's got to worry about his Instagram following or his YouTube following, and he's got the biggest contest in the world in 6 weeks.
Right.
And to me, I still believe in, and I know those gyms aren't around anymore, like a Diamond Gym, really, there's not too many of them left.
Right.
But how do you feel about that aspect?
So I, excuse me, I agree. I agree something gets lost, when you're taking your focus off of training, and knowing there's a camera there, knowing you're being watched. For me, I was the same way as you said. I want to prepare myself for the competitions. I want to go on and bust my ass competing. Then I'll stay for my photo shoots afterwards, and then
Right.
Then I want to go home and I want to make improvements, and I want to do it in the privacy of my own. It's all put out there now, and it's been so watered down. Most people that view this stuff, they don't really know the difference between somebody who's a pro and somebody who just is
No, they have no idea.
famous name, but
Yeah.
for me, it was always a distraction.
Mhm.
And I'm actually suffering, because of this now with the business, with my company, because a lot of these guys, they build up their social media and then
Mhm.
they sell you whatever they're selling.
That's exactly what happens. Yeah.
I'm doing a little different. I was late in the game. Social media wasn't, I retired in 2013.
Mhm.
So that's when social media really started taking off.
Right.
I'm kind of doing it backwards. I'm building the business first, and I'm building up my social media following, after the fact, which
Mhm.
I don't necessarily mind, because I think I'm a more grassroots, type of guy.
Right.
More niche, I'm not a lifestyle brand, this is, if you want it done right, this is how you do it. This is the best way. This is the
Yeah.
best way to do it. I put it all to the test, as opposed to what's the flavor of the month today,
Right.
but I definitely agree that that there's a lot lost when you're followed around with a camera crew, and you're being put on video 24 hours a day. It's and I get the business side of it also. I do get it, but I think there's some things that should be left. Like, you don't see these top Olympic athletes. You don't see these guys train. You don't see this.
You don't see fighters, day in, day out,
Yeah, you don't see behind the scenes. You might see it after the fight, but now it's like they're showing you everything all the way until they walk out on stage or walk into the gym or whatever they're doing.
And I get it. I get it that there's no way around it. These guys, they have to try and make as much money as possible, because, you're not really going to get compensated very well unless you were like the top 5 guys in the world. So
Well, I do believe there's a flip side to that, though.
go ahead.
I think there is an alternative route.
Okay.
Nobody wants to do it because you're the outcast. If you stay away from that and keep it private, I believe people wonder, what is this guy doing? I want to see this guy. You could see what all these 20 million other people are doing 24 hours a day. Who cares?
Right.
But when you have a guy who shows up and everything's locked down and he's dominating, that's how you build a bigger market.
That's right.
It's you're going to be outcasted if you do that now. But all it's going to take is one person to step into the shadows and demand their respective privacy, and they'll give you whatever they need to give you after the fact. There's definitely a market for that, but those are going to be your top guys that set a precedence for that.
And and it has worked in the past. Dorian Yates proved that.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what that guy did until he released Blood and Guts.
And everybody was dying to know.
Exactly. And that's and even last year when Phil did not release any social media stuff at all until he showed up for the Olympia, the same thing. It was like, what is he going to look like? So on and so forth. So yeah, I totally understand. I think it would be a slower process, but it would probably be more rewarding. I agree. I agree. Now that you're not competing, I could actually ask you this, and then we'll move on to like some fun stuff. But back in the late '90s, I remember there was some questionable calls in bodybuilding.
Right.
You know, like there was that one year that NASA really should have beat Dorian. Then there was that one year with that Victor should have beat Jay. And even then in the 80s, you know, there was that year that, you know, Schwarzenegger shouldn't have won and Franco shouldn't have won. Did you experience any, and I would not ask this of any bodybuilders that are not retired. I can only ask retired bodybuilders this. Did you experience any politics like that? Or is it really a subjective sport?
Well, it's a double-edged sword because of course it's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
But is it political because the judges have bias towards somebody who might be in their inner realms or something like that? You know, if I'm watching my daughter play soccer, you know, I'm seeing all her mistakes and all the things she does good, as opposed to somebody who doesn't catch my eye as much.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always the argument it's subjective, but yeah, there's definitely politics in it. There's always going to be politics whenever it's a business. You know, it's a business, whether we like it or not. I saw the Victor and Jay Mr. Olympia. I was there, and I thought Victor should have had it also.
Yeah.
I thought there was a year that Jay deserved to beat Ronnie.
Yes, 100%.
And I was shocked at that also.
Yeah. There was a couple of years. There was that year that Gunther really looked good, right? And you know, right. and you know, Ronnie wasn't his all, and you know.
I thought my year at the USA, my first year when I won the light heavies, I thought, you know, I kind of got shafted. Maybe I was a newbie. Maybe I had to pay my dues. You know, it is what it is. But it worked out better for me in the long run. But what struck me is everybody thought I won, and they did the interview with me right after prejudging. Like, oh, let's do the interview. There's nobody going to beat you.
Oh my God, really?
That's stuck in the heart too.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
You know, but yeah, you see, I mean, you see it in every sport. There's definitely, you know, you see it with referees in football games. You see it everywhere.
Sure, absolutely.
And everybody has the deniability of saying it's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
There are 9 judges, 7 in some, 11 in others. You know, so who's to really narrow it down? But the answer is absolute.
Do you think that it was worse then or now? Because I'm of the opinion that it was worse then.
To be honest, I would say it was probably worse than also. Worse than also. I'd say because back then, you had top sponsors that were sponsoring these big shows that carried names going into it. Now there's not much of that going around anymore. Mm-hmm. Now it might be the little things that, you know, somebody has a subliminal thought, like I've seen this guy in my gym, or I've seen this guy over here, and maybe that comes into it, maybe it doesn't. But you know, for those level of shows, what's the difference? You know, more or less. I mean, I think everybody deserves to be placed where they deserve to be placed.
Right.
But I think on the bigger scale of things, probably back then you might have seen it a little more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I think the Olympia now shows you, because the last 4 years we've had 4 different Mr. Olympias, and usually you have one dominant guy. That and I mean, again, I might be wrong, but I think the reason why they gave it to Dorian that one year with NASA was because they were making so much money overseas with Dorian. You know, with today, you know, with the social media, you know, you kind of could see everybody from every walk of life and gain fans from everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, with Dorian, I think his worst year was the torn bicep year.
Yeah, that was the one with NASA should have won.
That was the one, but then again, you know.
Plus, NASA wasn't the most likable guy in the world either.
No, and NASA was missing his whole backside. You know, you know, Dorian had the bicep thing, but it's Dorian. You know, it's still Dorian.
True.
You know, and I do get the argument where you got to dethrone the king. you
Right,
know,
right.
and for somebody to be on top the way he was and bring it the way he brought it year after year, I think somebody's should be given a little sway if he happens to be off. I mean, he makes up for it in so many other ways. You know, there's more to it than just the champion that's awarded. There's the whole persona that goes along with the Olympia crown that Dorian earned. You know, Dorian definitely earned it.
No, and you know what? I agree. I don't want to, if I run down like the top 6 or 7 bodybuilders in ever, you know, Dorian, in my view, comes in third, right behind Ronnie, and then Arnold, and then Dorian.
Yeah.
You know, actually he's fourth. I put Lee Haney before him.
Yeah.
But
Well, actually, to go back, Lee Haney is another perfect example. You had a guy that won 8, who didn't have a contract with anybody.
yeah.
You know, so if anybody they could have played politics with, it would have been him. So, you know, you have that argument to counteract that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So a more of a fun question for you is not so much anymore. The kind of fire of the bubble gut is kind of dying down. But in the last couple of years, everybody was talking about bubble guts. You know, Phil Heath and I forgot the other guy from. There was a bunch of them. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And it's all over social media. But anyway, I mean, I remember in the 90s, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's just me idolizing guys like you and guys that were bodybuilding back then. But when you had a huge stomach on your off season, it was almost like a badge of honor. You know, it was like, I remember I was in college and I was working at the vitamin shop, and you came in, you were with, again, you don't remember this. You came in to Staten Island and you were with MHP.
Gerard, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It was you and Gerard. And you had, I guess you turned pro like the year before, and you had this big sweatshirt on, and it was the summertime, and you could tell you were jacked, but your stomach was out to here. And I just was like looking at him like, oh, hey, that's fucking awesome. Like I always wanted that huge stomach. And I remember another year I went to the Olympia with my friends in 2001, and Craig Titus wasn't in the Olympia, but he was like signing autographs and taking pictures and stuff. And he was sitting down, and his stomach was literally on his lap.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, it was that. So am I right? Was it more like kind of like more like trendy, if you will, back then?
To be honest, no, not to me.
You're probably right. It's probably me.
If I always liked, to be honest, I didn't like having to get too big and having to get too heavy. I felt comfortable, you know, in the lower 200-pound range. Like when I was, you know, and most of it, it's just bloat. It's just water, like in your intestines, the amount of food you're eating,
right,
and the amount of stuff you're on. It's just, it's inflammation. You know, it's you know, because the funny thing is, as soon as you clean up your diet, your waste would come in. I never carried a lot of body fat. You know, I was always relatively lean in the off season, which I used to like, but I would see guys that would get heavy.
Yeah, Lee Priest would literally get fat. Yeah.
So I didn't understand the percentage in that, because, you know, you spend all year trying to put on muscle, and it's going to take you 6 months to diet down.
That's a good point. That's a very good
point. The body fat, you're going to sacrifice muscle, you know, so that's why I would like to stay relatively lean. I would get bloated.
Right.
I remember the heaviest I was 238, but at 5'5", you know, that's a lot of weight to carry.
Sure. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. It wasn't that, you know, the guys like you or Dave Palumbo or Craig Titus were fat, or even King Kamali. He had, you know, he just had bloated.
Yeah, it was distension.
Right. But today it's like frowned upon on the off season. I don't know if it's because they have to look good in social media as well or whatnot, but they try to keep their, I don't know how they do it, how they keep their waist so lean with eating so much food.
Right.
You know,
so
I go ahead.
Now I agree. I think it is that they try to look good on the camera 24 hours a day, and then maybe it's better for them in the long run. You know, who knows? But, you know, we used to take the time to grow in the off season. And now they do different types of dieting. Like they'll fast, you know, for portions of the day, and then they'll load up and refeed. And
yeah, I don't understand the fasting thing, especially with bodybuilders. I don't know too many bodybuilders that do it, but that is definitely a big trend with like the fitness guys
Yeah.
and the social media guys, you know, social media personalities.
Right.
I mean, I mean, maybe they know something I don't, you know,
Right.
I don't
Well,
know.
I have two guys I work with that are athletes for my company, and we do it the old-fashioned way. And no gimmicks, no tricks, just hard work. Putting in the effort, proper dieting, a balanced diet,
Right.
proper nutrition, proper supplementation, and the use of other supplementation
Sure.
the right way.
Right. Right. Right.
When I hear what's going on nowadays, and it's baffling.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the top guys are doing something right because they're coming in big, they're coming in full, they're coming in chiseled. You know, the majority of them have corrected the bloat, the, you know, the bubble gut thing.
Right.
So I mean, they're doing something right because, you know, I know every generation kind of says that the next generation sucks. You know, that sense seems to be, you could ask anybody, and I have this story where I was working on a job site, and LeBron James just broke into the NBA, and I was a kid, and there was an older guy there, big basketball guy. I don't know if it was a plumber or a steam fit, I don't remember, but he said, "Oh, LeBron James ain't shit. You know, Wilt Chamberlain was the man. He was the best basketball player." So everybody kind of does that. But if I look at it, objectively, I think today's bodybuilders have made a lot more gains than the 90s bodybuilders. Today, if you don't have striations in your glutes or your hamstrings, they don't even look at you. Whereas there were guys that would break the top 5, top 10 that didn't have that. Lee Priest was a perfect example. He always had trouble with his glutes and hamstrings, but he would break the top 5. Even Flex Wheeler, as great of a bodybuilder, as a Hall of Fame bodybuilder, one of the best that ever lived, he didn't have those crazy striations in his hamstrings and glutes and whatnot.
Right. A couple times he did.
Yeah, right. What do you think?
It's hard to say. I actually think the quality was better back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a different look. I agree. Everybody's hard and striated,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it doesn't look like real muscle. It lacks like the maturity of hard-earned, like dense muscle. You remember like a Mike Francois, Dorian, of course.
Yeah, I'll totally agree with that. Yeah, I'll totally agree with that. Yeah, the mature muscle.
Yeah, there's something different now where maybe it's rushed, through chemistry.
Yeah, it could be.
Lack of training. There are some, but don't get me wrong, it's not everybody.
No, definitely.
Some of the top guys now, they have some quality muscle. And I mean, remember Branch Warren? I mean, it's a different look.
Yeah. But doesn't that come in time? Like that's years and years of weight pounding, heavy weight pounding.
That's my point. Is I don't know if a lot of that's going on. But even Branch, as soon as he turned pro, he was attacking the pro stage and making a name for himself. But
yeah, that's true.
He always had that conditioning.
Right.
He always earned that respect. Like, he was bringing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Where some of these guys, they have the lines, they're dry, they're hard, but something's missing. It's hard to really put your finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to go back to saying the muscle maturity thing, like hard-earned muscle.
Yeah.
It almost looks like it's just enhanced.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I could totally agree with that. There are some guys that looks like the muscle is forced at a young age. Yeah. And then there are some guys who are truly gifted, like a Hunter Labrada.
Well, he's one of my favorites now. I mean,
yeah, that guy looks like he's been banging heavy weights for 15 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Was he 25? How old is he?
No, he's I think 28 or 29.
Oh, but, yeah, okay.
But Lee was I've known Lee, always respected him, his son. You got the genetics, you got the work ethic, and you have,
and he's got the size. I mean, he's a monster.
You got the size, so you translate that into a modern day version, and there's a perfect
right.
Right. I think he's going to do great in the sport. I think he's great for the sport.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. He has that um, he has that look and that reputation that a Joe Weider wanted in a Mr. Olympia, where it was like clean cut, family oriented, nice dude, so on and so forth. And he has that, he has a family, and he comes from a great family background, and he's well spoken, and he's intelligent, and he doesn't talk trash or anything like that. So besides Hunter, who do you like?
Right. So it's hard to say. I think a lot of guys have to prove themselves. But I think most of the guys now are on their way out. Like the top rankings of the Olympia, those guys are kind of on their way out, which I like seeing a Hunter Labrada, because in comes this new generation.
Yeah.
I really can't hand pick a bunch of guys right now. We'll see in the next year or two.
Yeah,
but
you don't like any of the younger guys coming up?
No, I do. I'm happy Sean won the 212. I know Sean; he's a great guy. He's
absolutely.
Coachman, I think Flex Lewis, when he finally hits the stage, he could make a big showing in the open class. He's still young enough to do it. I'd love to see him next to Hunter. I think that'd be a great
great comparison. But what about the new guys that are recently new, like a
Nick Walker,
like a Nick Walker or a Samson Dowder, Ian Valier?
I mean, these guys, they still have to prove themselves.
That's true. Yeah.
All the potential in the world, so it's in their hands.
Right.
And if they could deliver, which they have, they all had great first seasons. We'll see. But it's nice to see some new blood. And actually, these guys train hard. So
my God, they kill themselves.
Full circle again, which I think is great for the sport.
Absolutely, there's no question. Ian Valier trains like a monster. I would be dead halfway through. Forget it.
I've seen Nick Walker train, so I could tell you
he's from Jersey. That's right.
He moved to Florida, but he's not playing around. He's
not definitely not. So the New York Pro's coming up. So they got a lot of new guys coming in. What do you think? Who do you think is going to do the most damage in that show?
I think Nick could really make a strong showing for himself there. I heard there was rumors of forgive me. He's coming back.
Justin Rodriguez?
No. Why can't I think? From Connecticut? Oh my God.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think he's doing the New York Pro. Evan Santapani.
Evan, oh my God, sorry.
Yeah. I've heard he's making a comeback too, but I don't think he's doing the New York Pro. From what I understand, it's Nick, Justin, that Middle Eastern guy who got sick last year at the New York Pro.
Right. I mean, he's got a crazy physique.
Oh my God, what's his name? I can't remember his name. And then there is that new guy that's always beefing with Nick Walker.
The Redcon guy.
The Redcon guy. What's his name? Oh my God.
I don't know. But
and I'm interested to see what he looks like on stage, to be honest with you.
But look, there's guys and we've seen this. There's guys that look great in the gym. There's guys that look great on video.
Right.
When you're under those lights, you can't hide anything.
Yeah, Dave Palumbo was one of those guys. Dave Palumbo, when you saw him in the gym, you were like, my God, that's Mr. Olympia. And then you saw him on stage and you kind of saw his flaws next to the other guys.
Well, that's it, especially when you put him next to somebody with a slightly different quality or better aesthetics.
Right.
Nick actually has good aesthetics and he still has a small waist. Hopefully it stays that way.
I'm trying to find this guy's name. It's killing me that I can't find his name. What the hell is his name? that new guy from Redcon.
Yeah, they've been battling online.
Where is he? Come on, you gotta give it to me. Where is he? Because I've seen him on Instagram. Oh, Blessing Owodobu. That's it. And his back and his V-taper is amazing.
Crazy.
But I'd like to see him on stage. Like we said, you got to see them on stage before we actually judge. If I had a And what's his name? That French guy is doing it too. He was in the Arnold Classic last year. He's huge. He's like 6'3". Ford, something like that. I don't know.
I usually pay attention to smaller guys. That was my.
Yeah, I would have to pick Justin to actually pick this one because he was the runner up from last year. So it would just make sense. You know, I think Nick and Blessing are just a little too young as if, you know.
Well, I think Blessing will be down the line a little, but I think Nick has a good shot.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see him next to Justin, obviously we'll know. But I think it's gonna be an interesting show. It's gonna be a good show. Finally, we're gonna get some good shows. Right.
So, where can people find you? You still training? You still personal training? You still training people for shows?
No, so well, I have my supplement company, I-Prevail Supplements. So that's 24 hours a day now. I started the company 2 years ago. I have a couple of my athletes that I'm doing prep work for just because they're representing the brand. So they're going to make a good show. And two guys doing the junior USAs this year. Local guy Michael Roach from South New Jersey, and I have Jordan McLeod out in Ohio. One's a light heavy, one's a heavyweight, but both tremendous potential, and they're dialing in right. So I still promote. I have the Muscle Beach still in Jersey. Obviously, COVID put it down last year, and the shows this year they're not putting them all up. So I doubt I'll have mine this year. Hopefully everything's back up and running next year. But yeah, they can find me on Instagram, I_prevailsups. My website, I-prevailsups.com. But I'm still involved.
All right, I'll make sure to put your Instagram and your supplement company, the website, the link in the comment section, so people could check it out. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the supplements? What kind of supplements you got?
So when I was competing, I did my own prep work, did my own diet. I didn't rely on anybody. I was wanted to find the basic information on how I can get better, how to succeed as an athlete. And the higher level you get, obviously, you want to leave no stones unturned. So it turned from how do I diet the best way? How do I train the best way? How do I prepare the best way? How do I take supplements the best way?
Right.
And supplements may only be 8% of the overall globe of things, but
they're still necessary.
When you're at that level, you're going to take advantage of all of it. So I got into ingredients, and I started formulating products back when I was later on in my amateur career, but definitely early in the pro career. And they didn't have things on the market that I thought were really designed for the level of the athlete that was needed to recover and perform the way these top level athletes needed to perform. So I would go out and buy these ingredients, put them together. And then I was competing and utilizing these things, and they worked. And through trial and error, I kind of put together different formulas that, there's no studies for these things. This is I was the study. If something didn't work, I would tweak it and make it work. If this is how things break down. I mean, I at one time I could tell you the pathology report of anything I put into my body.
Right.
So with that, I in turn got a job for a supplement company, and I was there for 3 years, and a bunch of us left and started a different company. And I was involved slightly with the formulations, with certain things, with that. And then I kind of, I wanted to do it on my own, because the bigger the company got, the more money they made, the less of the quality the products become. And I don't mind being the smaller scale guy. I just want to I'd rather be the guy where, what does that guy take? It might be a small percentage of the population, but he's going to take my stuff. Because I was that guy. I used to go out, and you couldn't find, what I needed in a GNC or a Vitamin Shop.
That's right. Yeah.
And the stuff that was in the market, it was, mass produced by these big companies like your Muscle Techs, and not to throw names out there, but some of the big name companies that are out there now, they're made for your mainstream guys. But the stuff I'm designing is stuff that athletes use.
It's the highest quality whey, highest quality BCAAs.
But it's the synergistic formulas where things work in conjunction with each other. To get the best response, to make you perform better and recover better. So this is what works.
And the supplement is called I-Prevail.
I-Prevail Supplements. Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll definitely I'll definitely put that in the comment section.
Thank you.
And I have not tried any of your supplements, but I would definitely order some and check it out. Because I'm still, look, I'm 45. I need all the recovery I can get at this age.
Well, dude, I got a great sleep product. I got a great natural testosterone booster. I have great essential and branched chain aminos, great pre-workouts. I have amazing fat burners, stuff that it's designed to work, not stuff that's gonna, that you see on an infomercial. That
right.
You know what I mean? Like this is how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good. Yeah, I'll definitely go on your website and check it out. Jay, I really appreciate you doing this. It means a lot to me because I was one of the guys that looked up to you when I was a kid.
Thank you.
So I really, really appreciate you doing this. And like I said, there was you, Dave Palumbo, and Vinny Galante were the three big names that I would always look up to.
Thank you, John.
I still got to get the other two guys on.
Yeah, I think Dave's in Florida now. He's going through some stuff, and Vinny's still competing.
Are you serious? Really?
He's nuts. God bless him. God bless him.
Listen, if that's what he wants to do, why not?
Well, I had enough. When it was time for me to go, it was time for me to go. But he still has that fire burning. So good for him.
If that's what he likes to do and that's what he wants to do, there's nothing wrong with it. If I don't know the guy, but if he's delusional saying he's going to win, that's another story.
He's looking good. He actually is looking good.
Oh, really? Really? I have not taken on. The last time I actually looked at him on stage was when he turned pro.
Right.
That was the last time I took a look at him on stage. But hey, listen, I hope he does well for himself. Again, he was one of the guys that I used to look up to.
Yeah,
And again, man, I really appreciate you doing this. And we'll definitely catch up. And maybe we'll do some kind of one of the pro show wrap-up shows together or something like that.
Yeah, dude, we'll pick a show and we could do a preamble for it and we could do a wrap-up for it.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I would enjoy that, definitely.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, Jay, thank you. Have a good night, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks, John.